We're going to disassemble the trigger guard assembly. And the first thing we're going to do is, you see this spring right here. Well, it has a strut underneath it, and that strut is attached or placed up against the hammer in a little tiny groove down in here. And this spring is very, very, very tight. And if you don't do this next step, you're going to have a real problem getting that spring back on. But if you look real closely, take a small punch. Down in here, there's a small hole. See how that punch slid down in there? Now, keep that in place, and we're going to let the hammer go forward. See how that spring tightened up on this pin? If we take the hammer forward all the way, twist your punch, and the hammer spring and strut comes right out. Next, we're going to take apart the takedown button and the takedown latch. And to do that, we have to compress the takedown button all the way and take the latch and raise it up to the top. And as we come to the top, it has to be pulled out far enough that it goes across this rail here. And you get it down here on this side and you pull it straight out. Get my fingers out of the way. There we go. And this is what it looks like. We'll set this aside. Okay, and taking the bolt apart, there's one thing that must be removed first, and that's the firing pin stop, as you can see on both sides. This pin can come out either direction. Let me get my small punch and push it out. It does not take a lot of pressure to push out, as you can see. And next we're going to remove the recoil spring assembly, and we do that by pushing down this way and raising up on this end, and that will allow this end to be removed as well. I'm going to place that aside. And if you see down in here, you can see the firing pin sitting right here. We'll pull the firing pin up and out, and then we'll show you the other parts that's down in there. This is the way the firing pin looks from the side. That's where that little firing pin stop goes through that hole right here. So it's in there like this. We'll lay that aside. This is the recoil spring and the guide rod, and we're going to pull this up and forward to release it from its seat. It's a fairly large spring, and this is the guide rod, so we'll set that up there. Before we pull the barrel out from the slide, I just want to show you where the recoil guide rod sits, and it's this little groove right here. You might have a tendency to set it up here, and that'll just come off. It's not accurate. It must sit in here, and I'm talking about this part right here needs to ride in there like that. It's very important. So we'll set down my pointer and we'll raise up the barrel and pull it out. Set the slide aside. We're going to take a small punch and push down the firing pin safety lock, and when we do, make sure you retain these firing pin because it will fly out. And pull out the firing pin and just look at it for a little bit. Again, when you remove this spring, make sure that you don't pull it or stretch it. It is a very tight fit on there. This one's so tight I think I'm just going to leave it on because there's nothing wrong with it. Now we're going to remove the trigger bar. We must go down inside here and locate this trigger spring. And on the rear of it, it has a loop you can see that is movable. That rests up against the pivot bar that's attached to the trigger bar. So what we need to do is to push this spring forward. At the same time, we need to come in here and push this pivot out towards the right, and you can see that it is coming. To complete the removal of the trigger bar, we take hold of it and pull it out. Pull the hammer slightly back. This allows us to get past this stud here, and we can pull this straight out. It also has a hole right here where the roll pin is knocked through. And before we can do that function, we have to tighten this screw down, compress the ejector to take the tension off of this so the roll pin will come out. So we compress this down. Now we take our roll pin punch and knock out the pin. This tool stabilizes this roll pin so that you can perform that function with ease. It's a great tool.
This is the striker or firing pin, and it's a World War I original one without the relief cuts that I will show you later, to allow for debris to move backwards and not cause this to be jammed. So this is an early one that it's not a modified one, it's an early striker, just so you know. If you have a World War II pistol and you take this out, you'll see flutes cut in the striker, and those flutes are to allow excess oil and debris to move back away from the head of the firing pin to prevent jams. This is the firing pin spring, and this is the firing pin guide. So we have two sets of components, extractor components and firing pin components that we have removed from the breech of the weapon.
Okay, it's starting to come. Let me see if I can pull it off. A little bit more. Very tight fit. There we go. Worked very well. And if we take a look down inside here, you can see all the debris that we've got to clean off all of these parts. So let me set that part aside, the cover plate. And now we're going to take out the mainspring, which is right here. And you can see this screw right here, which has to be loosened to take the mainspring out. Place it through the end cap and slide it down and into the delta ring and assembly. Now, once we've got this in all the way, we need to tighten these two screws in the bottom. But before we do that, we're going to use a couple small levels to make sure that this gas block is level with the Picatinny rail on the upper. So we have to move this till we get it lined up with exactly where that other bubble is. And we're going to come down here and tighten up one of these screws.
The next thing that we're going to do is take our cotton patches, and I'm going to use the round ones here, insert it on the end of the jag, and this is what's going to actually remove the debris that the brush loosened. Again, always make sure that you travel with this rod in the same direction that that bullet travels. So we will insert this into the chamber, and then you can see at the end how much of the dirt and debris actually comes off. So you take that out, you actually will take another cotton patch here and repeat the process until they become clean and in each chamber.
In and take the barrel lock and push it down. And note that the barrel moves forward just slightly. Take the barrel and pull it slightly forward, lift up, and you'll see the two lugs here on each side of the barrel. After removing the barrel, note that there is a recessed area here on this part of the slide and the other side as well. That's the location where the lugs on the barrel must come through to be removed.